Hello, everyone. I'm Gayatri Chadwa, President of BTS Council, that is Break the Silence National Council for Prevention of Rape and Suicide. And today we are again here with a second episode of Teen Talk to discuss more about what is it that teenagers face, what is it as a society we can help them to make it a better and a safe space for them to survive, thrive, and be the best version of themselves. So today for this discussion, I have with me Apoorva Kulkarni, an 18-year-old pursuing her BE in engineering, who loves to read and write poems. Welcome, Apoorva. Thank you for coming here. And then I have with me Natalie Sharma, a 19-year-old, second year pursuing her honors in psychology, and also loves to read, write, and watch Formula One. Now, that is an interesting combination. Welcome, Natalie. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So just to start off a discussion, if you could tell us a little bit more about your journeys as from going from school students to university students as a teenager. How has the transition been for both of you? We can start with you, Natalie.
So I think one of the biggest shocks that I got with during the transition was the independency that I suddenly got, because when I was in college, I went to a junior college, which was still, within school. So it wasn't a lot, like the teachers would still be behind you to submit your stuff and all of that. But when I went to college, like now my first year, it was a big cultural shock for me, because literally when you say that professors literally do not care, you actually mean that. They actually do not care, because you have 70 students in the class. They can't really keep track of every single one, which is fair enough on their side. But then it just shows that how much you need to pay attention to yourself, and you need to be aware about what you're doing, how much you're submitting, how much you're contributing to the class, if you want to be in like the top 10, or if you want to make yourself known and have an impression among your professors.
Thank you so much. So the independence was just thrown onto you, that everything was spoon fed to some extent, and now everything you have to do on your own. How about you, Apoorva?
For me, the difficult part was getting along with my other friends, because till my 12th standard, I was with familiar people. But here, all of a sudden, everyone was strangers. So it was difficult for me to go ahead and talk to them. And even teachers were not that supportive. They all were behind, like it's a rat race. You have to top. So it's like you have to keep your mind calm and decide you have to just study. It's not a rat race which you have to run. They will pressurize you to be the first, but it's not like that.
So two different this thing. For you it was the independence, Natalie, and for you, Apoorva, it was mixing between the crowd, which were total strangers. So how was it mentally? Did you seek some? Was it difficult to go through this phase emotionally, mentally? And how was it? Was it difficult, or were you able to adjust to it?
I think personally for me, it was kind of helpful that my professors themselves, they did come up to us and they told us, if you have any kind of difficulty in the transition, you can speak to us. And it was kind of nice that they were as liberal as us. So we were quite open when we spoke to them about what we were going through. I personally didn't feel the need to do so, because I knew at one point this was going to happen, and the earlier it happened, the better. So for me, it was a bit difficult in the beginning, because as Apoorva said, it was difficult to make friends. But I just realized that, you have that one thing in your head, everyone is as scared as I am. So once that mentality is something you put yourself through, you really understand the other person's point of view as well. And it was easy for me to kind of make friends in that way. Now I can say that now, as I'm going into my second year, I have settled, and I have made kind of like an impression amongst my professors. So mentally, emotionally, it wasn't that strainful for me. So in that way, it's been easy.
About you, Apoorva?
Initially, it was very difficult. Like, I'm an extrovert person, but I used to not talk with anyone because everyone there was scared and no one was like willing to talk. So initially, I used to feel like caged thing. But with many friends, and right now I'm doing very well. And the thing was, the professor used to tell, only in first year we will care about you. In the second year or third year, you won't have teachers who will care for you. But even in first year, we didn't have any teachers caring for us genuinely. And the problem was in engineering, mostly people choose engineering because there is no choice left. So everyone, like most of the people in our class, have chosen engineering because they didn't have any other option. So that was everyone was having some or the other thing behind them. So everyone was having their traumas. So it was very difficult, but now I'm settled. I'm having a good bunch of friends and all. So now we enjoy college.
That's great to know. So when we talk about these transitions, the independence or making friends or the peer groups, especially when you talk about your teenage years, in the school years, it's like, people also look at you, ha, bache hain, these are small kids and, oh, nice friendships and all. But when it shifts to teenage years, the friendships are also looked down upon, not just by the outsiders, but people from within the family also to a great extent. Have you faced this thing issue, like, because of the teenage years, there are some restrictions which were there in your childhood suddenly were like as if too many of them came in, or it became too liberal, or it was like, a confusion of whether we are children or whether we are grown-ups? Did that confusion ever happen for either of you?
I think the confusion did happen with am I a child or am I an adult? Because suddenly it was, I am okay to do this, but I'm still not okay to do that. And my mom really stressed on the fact that the friends that you make in college are the friends that will last for life. In the beginning, I really did not believe that. I was like, it's just going to be as same as like school friends. Like now I hardly talk to many of them, but like they're still there. Like if I call them up, they'll still be there. And it'll be the same for college as well. So she kept stressing on the fact that, friends are something that you need to really make sure you make good and all of that. So when it comes to friendships in that way, I feel I've made a like good friendships around myself and I hope that they do last. But when it comes to hanging out with them, sleepovers and all, so my friends don't live near my area, so they live on the other side of the town. So my mom won't really be like open to sending me all the way to the other side of town for like sleepover. So in that way there are restrictions, but I am able to go to that side of town to like have dinner at their place, but I need to be back by a certain time. So it's like, what am I allowed to do and what am I not allowed to do? Because it's not really a clear, concise picture of what I am supposed to and what I'm not supposed to do. So it does get a bit confusing sometimes.
For me, it was like there was no restriction in friendships and all. So like my parents were very okay with having friends and all, but they just told me like don't get along with them, like don't go with the flow. Just know where you have to be, concentrated towards studies and when you must have fun. Like if after the exams they used to tell me please go out and have fun, but while exam they're like no phone at all. So it's like they put the restrictions, but it for my good, and they made me clear that you just have to balance between your studies and fun. Yes, there are restrictions, like if I have to go to my friend's place for sleepovers, it's not allowed. But if I ask, can I go to club, they allow me. So there are some restrictions, but there are some permissions also which they grant.
Okay, so how has this transition, like as a representative of teenagers, how would you define the life that a teenager faces in the society? Because a lot is said, like, when you talk about teenage, there is a lot of stigma, I would say, a taboo around that word itself, like, teenage. Oh, there is this mentality. Oh, these are going to be people who are like, not listening to us, not doing the things that we say. They never listen, they never understand, they do this, that, and hormones are blamed. So how do you think, like, children your age, what is it that you really face? Is it like, when you step out from the home, like as both of you said that you have a very safe home environment, which is very lucky, I would say. There must be definitely certain issues, but there are many other teenagers who don't have that safe and secure home environments in that sense. So how has that, as teenagers, as a general, how do you think kids your age are, what are they struggling with mainly?
I think the first issue that any teenager would face with is fitting in. Obviously, as common and cliche as it is very common, and I have seen it. People have started smoking and vaping just because they want to fit in with their friend groups that they're part of. Like I have a friend. We've been friends since ninth standard, and we go to the same college, but we don't we're not in the same field. She's doing BBA and I'm doing psychology. But, I've known her since we were like in ninth. And I've seen like, now what she's doing and like, she's vaping and she's smoking. And it's just, I know that's not who she is. And I know she's been doing that because of her friend group, the people she's around. And when I ask her about it, she's like, I don't have any other choice. It's either that or I don't hang out with anyone. So you see, when you are faced with these two choices, they would rather do something they're not used to just because they want to fit in. So it gets really confusing for us teenagers, I would say, that when you are given these two choices, would you rather be with a friend group and do stuff you don't want to, or just be lonely and be labeled as the loner for all years of your college? So when it comes to that, obviously it's survival of the fittest, honestly. It's brutal out there. It's brutal.
Thank you,
My
Natalie.
point is similar to her. It's like I feel generalization, like everyone is generalized into some categories. It shouldn't be like that. Like people who are studying are not completely nerd. People who are hanging out are not completely carefree about or careless about their career. It's not like that. It's their life. They know what the problems they're going through. Because in teenage, what happens? We mostly don't talk about our problems because we think now we are adult. We shouldn't show our tears to anyone and the friends will make fun of it. So that's what there is in our mind, that is in our mind. So that's why we don't open up. So we try to find alternatives for that. So I think that's the biggest problem, generalization. You can't generalize someone like, yeah, this is the way you should be, or this is the way you should be to be in the group, like that.
I absolutely agree with you, Apurva. I feel in like like having individuality amongst yourself is so important, because when you are like just put with the entire group of people and again you're generalized, then it's like you're like everybody else. What makes you so different, right? And I feel as teenagers, again, the word teenagers itself, we are generalized into this group, as Gayatri ma'am said, that our hormones are this, we don't listen, we don't do this, we don't do that. That's not true. Actually, we do listen. You just need to you know say it in a way that we would understand. If you speak in a language that only your age people will understand, that's not going to work with us. We would speak to you the way we understand stuff, so we would expect you to do the same. Like, for example, I'll give a very simple example. If our grandparents ask us to explain Facebook to them, we would explain it in terms that they would understand. We wouldn't explain it in our Gen Z way. So in this exactly the same way, explain your problems that you have about us in a way that we would understand, and we would do the same to you, because that's what we've been doing our entire life. And if we go upar niche thoda, you say that we're going out of line, we're getting too arrogant, we're getting this, we're getting that. It's like you aren't letting us express the opinions in our way, and you are misinterpreting it into a whole other thing, which is not very true.
Exactly. Like now in the teenage, we are very curious to know about the things, but our questioning is misunderstood as rebellious nature, which is not true. We just want logical answers to the questions which we have.
it's it's just very sad at this point, because sometimes when and then I've seen people who try to express themselves to their parents, but their parents just don't understand what to do about it. So the child is just like suppressed, and then this suppressed, like the way they're suppressed, it has to come out some other way, and then they look towards vaping and smoking and alcohol and then clubbing every week. I it's see, I understand, like, maybe you're not getting the outlet that you need and you are turning to such places, but if you do want to express yourself, you have other people you can express yourself to. Maybe you're not looking for a solution, you just need to say whatever you want to say, and you have friends for that. So instead of turning towards all of these other stuff, you can do just say what you want to say to other people.
True. And like in friends, like friends should be such people who will accept your flaws, will help you to overcome your shortcomings, and will help you to be a better person after all. Yeah.
That was such insightful things, like especially both of you said the same thing, like the fitting in or generalization that happens is why I think correct me if I'm wrong, because of the generalization, the need to fit in becomes more prominent among the teenagers, is what I feel. That, okay, yeah, so, and I have also come across people, oh, even if I don't do it, I'm going to be labeled the same. So might as well I do that thing particularly. And a very interesting point came in, like, explain to us in the way we understand. I think that happens, but that happens from childhood itself. The child also, parents usually, and me being a parent myself, I also see sometimes I realize that I'm talking in the terms that I understand rather than what my 7 or 8 year old would understand. Similarly, I think with teenagers also it happens, because earlier, as we said, we don't know whether we are child or we are adults. So how do you speak to us? So that communication gap, I think, along with the generation gap, I think the communication gap is the major issue, is what I could understand from your talks. So again, going to substance is something that is really unfortunate, that is happening in a lot of teenagers at very young ages, not even just like, once they enter the university, or, after their 11th or 12th junior college, but even school going children are, going towards substance, which unfortunately is, the guidance is not there. So how do you think that issue is cropping up amongst you or your peer groups? How is it that you try to deal with it, or how do you feel that these teenagers could find better support?
I think the most that I personally could do is just explain to them, because at the end, they are making their own choices. It's all up to them whether they want to continue it, whether they don't. But I feel my duty as a friend to the person, whoever is going through the substance abuse, is just to explain and ask them, like, why are they doing it and why do they feel the need to do so. And I just don't want to feel like I am lacking as a friend. That is why I will do whatever I can do within my boundary. Because again, if you overstep your boundaries, the other person will be like, I never asked you to do it. So why are you even doing this? It's not even your place. Again, so that is why I feel the most you can do is just talk to the person, restrict them. And then again, if they do not listen, it's all up to them. And this in turn does lead to, like, friendships are breaking. Again, you drift apart, and it's sad, but then again, that is how it is, and there's not a lot you can do. And it's actually become so frequent among these months, especially people who have just gotten into university and who are maybe just passing out of 12th. It's become very common for them to leave whatever good friends they had behind, go into these bad friend groups that are into all of this, and just forget the people that really cared for them. And the most you can do is just speak to them, and if they don't listen, there's nothing you can really do about it.
Like, why kids nowadays or teenage people consume these things? It's mostly because either they want to fit in the group, or that is the only distraction for them from all the chaos they're going through. But so we have to find the reason why they are actually consuming these things. And yeah, as she said, we can just talk to them. Like, if they are going through something, we should, like, we should make them feel comfortable, that we are open up to listen to them. And if they're trying to fit in, we should tell them that it's not actually good for you, and this is not what you're supposed to do.
Thank you so much. So how do you think, like, family, when you talk about family dynamics, especially in teenagers, how do you think family support fits into it? And what is it that what is your opinion that lacks from the family side at times when it comes to teenagers? Is there any specific thing that you feel that families need to do more of?
I think the main thing that I would say personally from my experience is just, sitting and listening. Sometimes there are just those days where you just want to sit and you just want to rant and vent to someone. Maybe you don't want to do it to a friend because it's private. You just want to do it to your family members. So maybe you don't want to do it to your younger siblings because, what would they understand? Maybe you don't want to do it to your older siblings because, they're already going through stuff. So you just either want to do it to your mom or your dad. Mostly it's your mom. And in those times where I just feel like you should just listen to what I'm saying, don't offer me a solution. I'm not looking for a solution. I just want to talk. just let me speak. And once I've spoken, tell me what you feel about it. That's it. Don't tell me if I'm right, if I'm wrong. I will come to that eventually. Like, it's my mistake. Let me make my mistake and let me learn from it. That is just an important thing, that I just want you to listen to me. That is it.
I feel when I come to you and I tell I'm not feeling good, I'm like chaotic and all, please just don't tell me that it's just a phase. It's not actually just a phase. We do have struggles. Like, people consider that you are a teenager. What struggles you have, what stress you have. You're just, it's just a phase. You are not able to handle it. You're not able to manage your time. But it's not. We actually go through a lot of things. Even we are teenagers, we do overthink a lot, and there are a lot of things going on in our mind, like regarding our career as well, not just about friends stuff and all, regarding our career, regarding finance, regarding health, everything. We do think about these things, and these things always make us stressful. But when we want to vent out, just listen to us, and, like, as she said, don't give us solutions, just listen to us. And don't tell us it's just a phase. If it's more than that, please, when we're telling you that it's more than that, it's not just a phase, do listen.
Again, like the point that Apoorva just said, that how can people just say that you're teenagers, you can't think about all this stuff, you can't go through all this stuff. Again, it gives a nod to the fact that, what are we? Are we children? Are we adults? What are we supposed to think? What are we supposed to do? Because honestly, everybody goes through this phase, but the way each person goes through it is so different, that you cannot give your experience and give your advice and expect me to follow and actually feel fruitful from it. So that's why I feel this age is so what can you say, it's so different, that each and every person, the way they go through it really defines who they are as an adult. And it really shows once they once they go out, once they graduate, once they go into their work sphere and everything. So that is why you can't really, like, when people say that, how can you even think about all this stuff like finance and all of that, like, we do think, because we hear about it, we will obviously think about it. And then if we don't think about it, you'll think that we're just neglecting everything, we're taking everything lightly. But it's not like that. Obviously, we do think about it and we obviously care about it. You just need to understand the fact that just because we don't say it again and again, that doesn't mean that we're like totally blind to it. We do understand the reason we don't say about it again and again, because it'll make you stressful, it'll make us stressful. We're not getting anything out of the situation. So in that way, we are more mindful and, again, emotionally intelligent in that way.
These all things we don't tell our parents, like, because we think they'll get stressed because we are telling them about our stress.
Right.
That's why we keep it to ourselves. But then they understand, like, they don't share anything, they don't talk to us. But it's not like that. It's like we, if we tell you, you will also feel stressed, and we don't want that.
Yeah, because we're getting nothing out of the situation. Why do you keep want to, like, talk about it? And then if you tell me something and, like, I'm like, okay, yeah, I'm listening to you, then they get irritated, like, okay, you're listening to me, but what are you doing? What are you going to do about this information? Then why are you telling me? That's the whole point. Because I understand that even they are people, even they want to vent to someone. But, like, again, when you're venting, what do you want out of this rant? Like, do you want me to offer a solution? Do you want me to help you with anything? Or do you just want me to listen to whatever you're saying? Again, they don't explain it. Achhe se, how are we supposed to know? So again,
Right.
it's just so much.
It's like, given logical reasonings, we'll listen to everything what you
Yeah,
say.
exactly. And then miscommunication happens, and then fights happen, and then it's just, what where did it start and what did it become?
There is no outcome. It's just a loop.
Amazing. I mean, really, this is really insightful that, a lot of times, as you very well said, Natalie or Apoorva, that we don't want to stress the parents. And then even if we not talk about it because we don't want the stress to be spread out around it, doesn't mean that we are not paying attention or we are not thinking about it, which is one of the complaints that many of the people have. Or teenagers, they're just carefree. They don't care about anything. They just want to, like, live their life, and they just want to enjoy, go out. They don't understand the value of things that they are given. And that is one of the major complaints that many of the parents have for especially this Gen Z, as we call it. So, and you very well nicely put it into a perspective that it's not that we are not thinking about it. It's just that we are not telling you about it because we don't want the stress to just pass on and cause a ripple effect in the family. So it's very interesting to see that because as teenagers, even when I was a teenager, it was always, oh, you don't talk to us, you don't share anything with us. And that point also you put up very beautifully earlier that, listen to us, listen to what we are saying, and then we will talk to you. How do you think, as a teenager, how do you think the relationship between siblings, if you have any, or your cousins, how do that change and how does that affect the entire teenage experience according to you?
So I have a younger brother, and right now he's 13. He's just starting his teenage years, and in that way, as I said earlier, that the advice that must have worked for you will not work for me. So that is what I keep in mind whenever I speak to him about his friends, what he's doing. So what I went through will not be similar for him. So I can't advise him what I would want someone to advise me when I was a teenager. But I think what I try to keep in mind is that even though he's becoming a teenager and even though he's also growing, even I'm growing, it's important to keep the connection with your sibling, like, speak to your sibling, even if it's the most nonsensical things you can even think of, even if it's talking bad about your family members, anything, just keep the connection with your sibling, because honestly later if you don't, you will regret it, because your sibling is the only person who has been with you in the same household, and even though he was in the same household with you, they have grown up to become a different person than you are. So they will obviously see things in a different point of view than you will do, and that's the only person you can count on, because they are as the same age as you, not the same upar niche hoga, but they are also from the same household. They will understand you better than your parents would ever, because they have seen you through your true ups and downs, and truly they have seen you for whatever it is you are. So I feel in the whole aspect of being siblings, it's so important to keep the connection alive between both of them, because at the end it's your sibling that you can count on, not even like your parents, I would say. That's what I believe.
I have a younger brother who's 12 years old. Actually, he has been a massive support for me during my entrance exam. It's like when I am stressed out and all, I don't know what to do. When I spend time with him, when I play with him, I again realize, okay, I can be happy. I'm still the same person. Like the main thing which we lose when we enter in our teenage is innocence. Many people say we lack innocence. Teenagers lack innocence, it's not like that. We do relive the things. We like when I'm with my brother, it feels like okay, I can still enjoy. I can still play board games as I used to play when I was kid. So it is always it always gives a good vibes when I play with him, when I talk with him, when I get to know what things are going on in his life. So it is all helpful. And I have even cousins who are elder to me, but they're of the same age group, we can say. When I tell them this is all I'm going through, this is all chaotic, I can't handle it, they tell me you will. We all have been through this, but you will. You will find your way on your own. We don't need to guide you. You will understand how you should behave at particular situation, how you should manage. Like now, we friends are planning for a trip and all. So we don't know how to manage. We haven't went so far from Pune somewhere else. So it's like you will learn. You will learn eventually. They all tell me these things.
Thank you. So I think the sibling bond, the familial bond works a lot in the teenage years. And I think that is something that the elder generation should also take into consideration, because I think if there is a family support, the teenage years could become very beautiful. How do you think about, the support of the teachers or, your mentors? What do you think is required? Because do you think there's still a bias when it comes to teachers or mentors around because you're teenagers? Do you feel that there is a bias or there is something that can more be done as a support from your university or your mentors, your teachers, your other, helpers around?
So when I was actually in high school, I think I was in eighth or ninth, I had a teacher who was extremely biased to like children who you could call them the backbenchers who don't really score well. So she was very biased to them. And one day I did speak about this to her, and I asked her, why are you just so partial to them and not to the other people of the class? Because the divide was very apparent and everybody noticed this. So she told me, because they don't score well, they need a bit more support and all of that. So I was like, okay, I understand. And later, when it was open day, she told my mother that I was very arrogant for coming and telling her, asking her these questions. So I told my mom that this is exactly what happened and this is what she said. So after that, my mother was like, okay, I understand. But honestly, she didn't really have to come and say that you are arrogant, which is again very, for me, I never had a good teacher who would really understand what I would say if I went up to her and I spoke to her about myself. Because again, I was labeled arrogant by her. And then slowly, when I went to 9th and 10th, all the other teachers thought of me to be arrogant. So they wouldn't let me answer in class or ask any questions in class, which was sad, honestly, because like, why would you just be partial to a girl who just tried to express her opinion and ask someone a question? So again, in that way, I've never had like good role models as teachers. But now that I've come into university now, I think the professors are more mindful about the way they speak, mindful about when people come to them and ask them questions. I've never gone to any professor since then. I've had a very bad experience, so I don't speak to any professor anymore. But I think, when answering in class, they do let me answer in class now, which is what I'm happy for. So other than that, yeah, I think it is quite important, because I had a bad experience about it. I would never go to a teacher again. I know that for a fact. Maybe if I had a good teacher, I would go up to them. I would like speak to them, talk to them. But then again, I wouldn't want to be labeled as the teacher's pet. So I would just stay away as I am right now.
I'm sorry for a bad experience, but I had completely opposite experience. Like in my school days, I had a really good teacher. She was as good as counselor for all the students. She was completely unbiased, and she used to always listen to all the problems. Let it be like hormonal problems, let it be any problem, family problems, financial problems, every problem she used to listen. So in school, I had a really good teachers, and more than friends, I had good bond with my teachers. But as I came to like 11th, 12th, we had COVID. So, of course, there was no as such bond. But teachers used to completely pay attention to us like, are we actually understanding or not? Even in university, they teach really well. But sometimes what happens, we say something so casually that we don't understand how much impact it is having on the other person. Like, there is a boy in our class who is not having a great height. So, sir addressed him as Chotu. Well, everyone teases him like that. When you will address him in front of a class, that will hamper him, that will cause a trauma to his mind. You never know how a person will react to it. Because I had my friend whose sister actually, she was humiliated in the class by her professor and she took the huge step. So it's like you would never know in this teenage, even the slightest of humiliation can cause a trauma and can lead us to take any other step. So even these things matter when professors, especially when they're teaching, they should be very mindful about what they're talking, how they're speaking, and how they're addressing to us. Like even we had some lecture and we had to write specific vehicle specification. So ma'am said, boys write about bikes and girls write about scooties. Like why do you have to discriminate? We will write what we want to. Even if a boy wants to write about a scooty, he will write about scooty. If I want to write about a bike, I will write about a bike. You don't need to specify us.
And the worst part about this is, if you go and speak to them, they will just say, "Arey, joke mein tha. It's okay.
Exactly. It's
Just
not
take
a
it as a joke."
joke.
Because it's not a joke. You keep saying this, you say it once, you'll say it twice, the third time someone is actually going to say something at you, and then you will get humiliated, and then you will remove it out on that student's mark sheet. Then again,
Yeah,
what kind of situation are you
exactly.
creating? It's not good for you, it's not good for me. Just don't do this.
It's like
Why?
when we complain about the professor, like we are not understanding a particular thing, they'll remove that anger on our attendance. So I don't
Right.
see, mom.
Yeah. So it's like not fair. Like, why aren't you doing your job the way you are supposed to, fairly and unbiased? Because now it's like, no, even if students don't understand what you're teaching, they're not going to come and tell you anything. And then if they score less, you will again get angry. So
Exactly.
what is even happening? Like, the situation doesn't make any sense.
In engineering, half of the time it's like we are not going for the classes. We sit in the library and we study because we don't understand what professors are telling us. But we are eager to know because in teenage we are like curious to know the facts, to know the mysteries around us, to develop something, to invent something. But if we don't get the direction, how are we going to do? It's just going to lead us to frustration, and then we are just going to do for the sake of marks and for the sake of degree.
Right, very correct.
Absolutely interest, like, unfortunate points, but the truth that, as teachers, there needs to be more mindfulness about what is being said. It can, a small word, a small emotion can impact the life of a child, like, the entire life of the child. It can, as Apoorva said, it could lead to something very drastic, which could be the most worst thing that can happen, and not just to the child, but the entire family behind. And a lot of times these things are not said out because the children don't know whether I should talk against my teacher, whether I should speak to my parents about that I'm being bullied, because this is kind of a bullying in short, where you are telling the peers not to bully the child or amongst each other, but you at the other end are also saying things which can turn into a joke for you, but for the child, for the individual, it's a trauma that they carry throughout the lifetime. So I think that mindfulness about what we are saying, when we are saying, and how we are helping them, even if somebody is weak, doesn't mean that they need to be ignored or put out. Oh, this is the I always had this uh, some kind of an irritation with this. Oh, this is the cream batch, and these are the the regular ones who don't have to be, because then for the cream batch you're putting in extra efforts. But instead, even if you put in 5% of that effort on the weaker sections, I think they would also flourish brilliantly. They would feel like as if they are belonging to the entire crop of students which is there. It's like, it's not just about giving the things to the ones, extra things to the ones who are as it is topping. Instead, just give some amount of that attention to, exact same amount of attention is required to the other side of the spectrum also, where people are struggling. And if you really pay that attention and give them the extra papers, the ones who are at the top can actually go and get it themselves. It is possible. But as you very rightly said, it does lead to a lifetime trauma. And because those are the developing years, as Apoorva also said, as Natalie, you also said that this is a time where you are exploring things. You want to understand where you stand, what is your identity. You want your individuality to come into face. And when that is put down, I think it is something that leads to a lifelong hesitation. As you said, Natalie, now I think I don't feel like going and talking to my professors because I had a bad experience. It might not just be today, but it might be like anything, a person of authority. And I have known so many examples where they just don't talk to person of authority because they feel, oh, I'm going to be put down. A very unfortunate fact. And because of that, a lot of, I think, mental health struggles which are coming up, especially after COVID, now that we have become more aware about the mental health, the well-being of teenagers, of every individual. I think a lot of is being spoken about. A lot of amongst your peer groups, I hope, are going and talking to the experts. But do you think still there is a taboo while of talking to psychologists or counselors or asking for help amongst teenagers?
I think, yeah. See, so now the friends and the people I am around, we are all studying psychology, political science, and English. So we're three different groups. But even though these three groups we're all studying different things, we're quite open with what we are struggling with. We talk to each other. If anyone is seeing a therapist, they do tell, like, I am seeing a therapist, I am talking about this. But if I take the same example in BBA or in any other administration like MBA, BBA, or let's say engineering as well, if I go and tell them that, I am seeing a therapist, they'll be like, क्यों क्या जरूरत है? Speak to your parents. नहीं तो open your psychology textbook, पढ़ ले जो है, क्यों चाहिए therapy? So I don't think they really understand the concept of therapy yet. They understand like the idea of it कि हाँ किसी से जाके अपने सारे चीजें बोल दो, वो बोलेंगे ये है वो है, और फिर थोड़ा medicine देंगे और तू ठीक हो जाएगी. That's what they think it is. But I don't think they really understand what exactly therapy means and what it can mean to each and every person, because not everyone is going to be prescribed pills just like that out of whim. So again, it's not, I wouldn't say taboo, it's just a misunderstanding that they have about what it is. Like if I go and tell my friend from BBA that I am seeing a therapist, she wouldn't really judge me, but she would just be like, what's the need of it? Like, you can just go speak to your mom, you can speak to me. Why do you need to pay someone else and speak to them? So I think it's just a misunderstanding of what they think therapy is.
As I said earlier, like engineering, no one, like mostly people, they don't choose engineering. It's like they didn't have any option. That's why they chose engineering. So we all had the trauma. Like some couldn't clear JEE, some couldn't clear NDA. Like they couldn't get their dream college or something. So everyone has something in their bag, but we try to speak out. And like till now, like we haven't seen any severe case. But if it's severe case, we do recommend like please you see a professional psychologist. You go through a therapy. But for it's like it's so much like I'm into engineering, mechanical engineers, civil engineers, computer engineers, these all people, they went through so many things like this. They're not doing by choice. It's like they have to do it. Now one of my friend, he had something 99 percentile in biology, but family forced him. That's why he had to take engineering. So that's he had that something in mind. He could have get best of the best college from Pune, not even Pune, just all over Maharashtra. So these all things are there, but it's like there is a misconception that therapy is needed when you're not actually mentally ill and all something. But it's not like that. Even if you're not able to figure out things, if you're finding difficulty, if you think you need help, you must seek for it. And if you think it's not okay to go to a doctor or to a therapy, you should like at least be open up to people whom you trust. Like we have a page of our college where everyone talk about the things they are going through. Like there's somewhere happened where we have two exams in SEM and NSEM. Both the exams were within 1 month. So it's not actually how it's supposed to be. So everyone was putting up their frustration and how it was stressful for them. So these are the few steps we all peer groups try to take. Like initially we try to solve it among us, but if we see if someone is too severe, we do recommend you should go for therapy. You should show to a doctor.
And how do you think families are open to? Like if a teenager goes and tells that I need therapy, how much do you think our families open to letting them see a therapist?
So I think over there, the word taboo I would put, because they again would be like, why do you need therapy? It is not needed. You can come talk to me, go talk to your friends. Like it's not a thing. It's just, again, as Apoorva said, it's a phase. It's not something you're really going through. Go to sleep, wake up, eat good food, don't be on your phone. Then all of this would go. So again, it's like you aren't listening to what I'm saying. I'm saying I need help, and like I know, like, because as a person I am maturing and I think I need help, and I know it's not, I can't do anything about it. So again, you're not listening to me, so what do you expect from this situation?
There is this specific line they tell us, हमारे ज़माने में ये कुछ नहीं था, still we survived. But
Right,
it's not like that. आपके ज़माने में भी था, लेकिन आपने उसको address नहीं किया. You
right.
just suffered through that phase and you got out of it. But we don't want to suffer like this. We want to come out of it, and we want to live our teenage, like, but really enjoy it. We don't want to spend it, ruin it with that trauma or whatever we are going through. We want to enjoy it. We want to hang out. We want to actually remember teenage after a few years like it was the best
Right.
period of my life.
Yeah, you don't want to keep any kind of bad memories that, oh yeah, I was going through this, I was going through that, my parents didn't let me seek the help that I needed, so now I'm like this. Because it becomes sad, because as Gayatri ma'am said, it's the years that we're developing and we're like learning so much, we're exposed to so many things, so many experiences. You want to make sure that each and every experience is as positive as it can get. And if every experience you're getting is just negative and negative because you're not feeling well and you're not getting the help that you need, then it's just very sad. And it is again reflected when you become an adult, when you go into work life, and then when you are just when you're speaking to authorities, then it becomes sad. And then you are like, then you have trauma of your teenage years. You're like, oh my god, I don't want to remember it anymore. Then it's like, it doesn't make any sense. It's sad. That's what it be.
it's like not only your teenage will get hampered, your complete life will get hampered
Right.
because of it. You
Yeah.
will carry the same roots of trauma even in further life.
Yeah, in all of the interpersonal relationships that you have, even with like your peers, with even relationships with your significant other or with your parents, with your families, it just reflects everywhere. And then it becomes a very messy situation where you should have taken the help that you needed. But then still, even when it's starting to reflect on all the other communities, you can still take the help that you need. It's still not too late as long as you feel that you are ready to take the step to do it and no one's holding you back because you don't need anyone's permission by that time.
Yes, you just need to seek for the help and you will get it.
Absolutely. Thank you. I think, yes, it is unfortunate, but many of the families still go like, oh, it's a phase. No need to see a therapist. Why do you need a therapist? There are even talks about like, are you mad? You're not mad. That is another thing. And that is an unfortunate thing. So what is it that you would like to tell your age group, the people out there who are listening to you today? What is it that you would like to tell them when it comes to their mental well-being, their emotional support, or any trauma that they are facing through? What is it, that one message that you would like to give to the teenagers out there?
I would say that, just have fun. No one really knows what they're doing as well. Everyone is going through this life for the first time. So you are, as the person in front of you is as scared as you are. So, and if you are facing anything, it's still, again, not too late. Go ask for help. If your parents aren't letting you do it, that's fine. Speak to your friend. Just let your friend listen to you. It doesn't matter if you aren't getting a solution out of it. Speaking about it is already a job half done. So the more you speak about it, the more, when you let it out, when you communicate, you will solve it by yourself. Your brain will automatically understand what exactly the root cause is, and maybe you can stop it and end all of whatever you are feeling. But again, if you aren't able to do that, go get help because it's not too late. You can still do it.
I would like to say, like, it's okay if things are not sorted yet, if you're not clear about what you want to do or what you're doing. It's okay if you're not sorted well, it's okay if you don't know who are your friends and who are your enemies, or who are strangers from whom you should stay away, from whom you should create bond, how you should talk, how you should behave. It's okay if you don't have sorted everything. It's not compulsory that you should be completely sorted person. It's okay if you are a mess right now. Eventually, you'll understand, you will learn, but try, like, find alternatives which will make you a better person. Like, as we said, that if you're not feeling like someone's listening to you, start writing it down, whatever you feel. Like, if you think like that, like, if you are not feeling comfortable to talk to anyone, write it down. Or there are self-help groups, go out to them, reach out to them, or go for a treks, or like do whatever makes you feel happy and makes you feel better. Like, if you're not happy, whatever you will do, it will be a mess. It will lead to frustration. It will be a loop, continuous loop. You have to be happy before actually doing something, whether in your career or anything. You have to be happy about what you're doing. So I think that's the message I would like to give to all the teenagers out there.
Thank you, Apoorva. Thank you, Natalie. And on that note, what is the one thing that, or many things it could be, is what you as teenagers want the parents and the elders around you in the society, as a society? What is the message for the society that, how can we help to make your teenage life a bit better?
First, I would say just listen to us. It's not that big of a deal. Just listen. And second thing, what I want to say is not all teenagers are moody and they don't want to talk and they're rude and they're mean. Not everyone is like that. And if someone is like that, they might be going through something that you might not know about. So, it's always great to be respectful. And speaking about respect, for us teenagers, it's really important that we obviously give respect. That's what we've been taught from a very young age. We give respect. But as a society, I think we should also get the same amount of respect back. Because if I am speaking politely to someone, whether they are a senior citizen, I expect them to speak the same way back to me and not any kind of way just because I'm small. That doesn't make any sense. So that's why give and take respect. It's very important on both the levels, whether you are an elder to me or you are younger to me.
I expect like don't tag me or don't put a label on me. Like suppose I'm going to a club, that doesn't mean I'm spoiled. And if I'm studying, that doesn't mean I'm boring. So don't just tag us. We are like we we are ourselves discovering us. So it's like we are in the process. We are yet to develop our personality. So just don't tag us. We don't know the complete story of a person. And as a teenagers, we go through a lot of things. So just know that this is the only one side you know. You don't know the complete story. So just don't be ready to judge us like, okay, this person is doing these things, so he's not a good person. Like that.
Thank you so much. That was such a wonderful discussion and so many insightful thoughts. What I take from this session is we are humans, we are learning, we are going through so much that we are not telling you, not because we don't want to, but because we don't want to spread the stress that we are feeling between the family or our peer groups. And that is why we keep things to us. So just stay back, listen to us without giving us more advices, because at times we just want to empty our bucket before we start filling it in. We don't want it to be filled with your advice. We would love to make mistakes. We would love to uh, learn for ourselves, find ourselves who we are, help ourselves out of sticky situations, but just be there to support us. And that is something as a parent I take back from talking to you beautiful girls out here. Thank you so much for that amazing discussion. Thank you so much for so many insights on today's life, which though yes, I have lived in the past, but it was way back. And now today, as you said, what happened in that generation doesn't necessarily happen today. So even like, every 5 years, it keeps on changing how we deal with things. So just be open is what I take back from this session. So thank you so much, Apoorva. Thank you so much, Natalie. And this is exactly what we are trying to do at Break the Silence, to create an awareness about the mental health, the emotional well-being of every individual. So if you wish to join our movement, please get in touch with us. We would be happy to onboard you as a volunteer. Do feel free to spread the word. And if you have anything to say, we are more than happy to listen. So connect with us anytime. Thank you so much. Thank you, both of you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.